Well, there he covered everything, so I don't have to say anything now. But good afternoon, and thank you, Steve, for the introduction and being another great representative of Washington State and the First District. I always say it's the most beautiful district in the country, and occasionally rub people the wrong way because they then want to argue with me that they are in the most beautiful district. But it is an incredibly beautiful district, and one of the things that makes our region so beautiful is the incredible agricultural areas that we have in Western Washington. Um, we also have a growing organic industry. According to the most recent survey from 2011, certified organic farms in Northwest Washington generated $36.6 million in sales, and these numbers are rising dramatically. My district includes over 3,000 farms, many of which are organic. We have lots of dairies and berries. We always talk about my region as the dairy and berry region, but as Steve said, many specialty crops and seed, potatoes, but especially berries. And we're also home to some great organic companies like Amy's Kitchen and Nature's Path. Shortly after I took office, I asked my local farmers what they needed from their member of Congress, and they said we need two things. We need a farm bill, and we need comprehensive immigration reform. And I think they gave me 6 months to do it. One of their dairy farmers said, I'll give you 6 months, and then after that, you're out there. So we got a farm bill done, and he's been very kind to give me a little more time as we continue to work on immigration reform. But as you know, last year we passed a 5-year farm bill, and I helped negotiate the final deal by serving on the conference committee with the Senate. And I think this farm bill was one of the best ones we've ever had for specialty crops and for organics. The demand for certified organic goods has never been greater, which is why I think that a lot of the victories in the farm bill for organic agriculture will make a huge difference. But I want to highlight a few of those in particular. We maintained and achieved record funding levels for organic programs. There was increased funding for programs like the National Organic Program and the National Certification Cost Share Program. Both are crucial for maintaining the integrity of the organic seal and helping new farmers transition to growing organically. In addition, critical research programs like the Organic Agricultural Research and Extension Initiative, now we have mandatory funding going forward, which is very, very critical, and some research happening even up in our region at Washington State University has been doing. This means if there's another lapse in the Farm Bill, we have a continuing resolution keeping things going like it did a few years ago. These programs will continue, and you won't end up with dollars being cut off and these programs being left out in the cold, because we know that research doesn't just go on hold. If we stop funding for research programs, much of that research stops, and it's hard to get it started again. There was also a meaningful move in this Farm Bill to help ensure schools buy more organic produce from our local farmers. And as you all know, there was a tough fight to create a new organic industry checkoff program, and in the end, the Farm Bill helped pave the way. So this Congress, as Steve mentioned, I'm honored to serve as the ranking member on the House Agriculture Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research, the key subcommittee on the Ag Committee. Again, someone will challenge me on that probably fairly. Though through this position, I'm looking forward to continuing to work to support the organic agriculture industry, which is so important to our local as well as our national communities and the economy. Whether it's ensuring the Farm Bill is implemented on time and is true to its intent, or that crucial funding for trade promotion programs like the Market Access Program are fully funded each year, there's a lot of work that still has to be done. In one of my recent district work periods where I had the chance to be back home, I spent time with local farmers, and one of the things we talked about was how much the recent port stalemate on the West Coast was affecting them. Unlike other goods, when organic produce is sitting in your shipping containers for weeks, it's impossible to get your products to market on time, and you just don't have a product anymore. So as the demand for organic food products continues to rise, lawmakers need to do a better job of supporting producers. And you all know too well there's a growing supply shortage, and it's critical that we work together to support the great work that you're doing and ensure that we're meeting the unique challenges of this nearly $40 billion organic industry. And another thing, and Steve mentioned this, I'm on 2 committees in Congress. I'm on the Ag Committee, and I'm also on the Judiciary Committee, which is where we're doing immigration reform. So as I said, when I talked to my farmers and you said you need to do two things, I'm kind of focused on making sure I was involved in those two things. So they said that our current immigration system isn't working. I'm sure all of you agree. That doesn't seem to be news to anyone in the House and in House leadership. But House leadership still has been struggling to act, which still refuses to allow a vote on common sense legislation that would fix our broken system. As many of you may know, as a member of the House Judiciary Committee, I was part of a group that introduced H.R. 15 last Congress, which was very similar to the bipartisan Senate-passed bill. I think we had the support to pass that legislation if it was allowed a vote on the floor of the House, but unfortunately we were never allowed a vote, and that bill never moved forward. That was a bipartisan bill. And while the president's recent executive actions may provide relief to some, it does nothing to solve the problem of an unworkable H-2A program. So early this month, I offered an amendment on a Judiciary Committee bill that would have required the Secretaries of Homeland Security and Agriculture to certify that E-Verify wouldn't result in significant labor shortages before forcing farmers to use the system. And unfortunately, Republicans blocked my amendment there. But I believe we truly still need comprehensive immigration reform, and passing enforcement-only mechanisms like E-Verify would do nothing to solve the problem and only make matters worse for our farmers. Nearly everyone agrees that our current system is broken. Congress must fix it. So I'll continue to push for a comprehensive solution so that our farmers have the workforce that they need. So I want to thank you for inviting me to speak with you here today. I look forward to continuing to work together as we continue to work to make progress in this Congress. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference here. And I'm happy to take a few questions before they call votes over in the House and I have to run back to the Capitol. Thank you. Or I always say I'll happy to take questions or answers for those of you who have answers for me too.
I want to pick up where you left off on the immigration. I understand the bipartisan disagreements that have been going on no matter who was the majority. What is the big problem? What is the thing that we need to really concentrate on most so we can talk to our legislators to move everybody off the center and back to where they can start to balance this whole thing out and really solve the immigration issue? It's a serious problem for agriculture.
It's a serious problem, and my district has technology, agriculture. We have a border. We have every piece of the that represents the need for immigration reform, and so comprehensive legislation is important. As I said, we had a bill last Congress, H.R. 15. It was a comprehensive bill, bipartisan bill. We weren't allowed to vote. What I would say, and as you talk to legislators too, is if you don't like a particular piece of legislation, tell us the legislation you would sign on to. Because we have a lot of folks who said, hey, I support comprehensive immigration reform, just not that bill. And my response was, then show me the bill, because we can't move forward if you won't tell me what you will sign, if you just say all the things you won't. So if people can be specific about what they do support, then we might be able to help craft legislation that has that support. But I think we would have had that support with the bill that we had last Congress, but it needed to get on the floor of the House. And the other thing is it takes one person in House leadership to say, we don't want to vote on that bill. So even though it might have gotten the bipartisan support if people were forced to vote, keeping it off the floor meant we never got that vote and nothing moved forward. We have that problem in other areas. Reauthorizing the Export-Import Bank might be another example where we have a lot of broad bipartisan support, and yet we haven't had the chance to bring a bill to the floor. So we'll continue to work on that too. But I think it's important to not let folks say, hey, I'm supportive generally. Ask folks to be specific and tell you what it is that they would sign on to, because last I checked, you have to pass, bill has to pass the House and the Senate and be signed by the President. So if we really want to solve this problem and actually have a piece of legislation go through, we've got to figure out a way where people are going to come together, because otherwise only getting a bill partway through the process isn't going to help any of you either.
If I could, I don't understand why the leadership, whether it was the last majority, which were the Democrats, and this majority, which are the Republicans, of course the House has been there for a while. I mean, why would you not want to move something forward? I mean, I keep asking my own local congressmen and senators, and I get such a runaround on really what is the issue. Is it just plain bipartisan? Or is it because we want to hold it back for some other reasons? Is there a lobby that's blocking this thing or not moving it forward? I mean, this is crazy.
I think, I represent a swing district, as Steve talked about. I represent a district that probably has every different possible point of view possible somewhere in the district. And so when I talk to folks at home, I am balancing all of that feedback and working together to find, solutions that solve issues, understanding that we don't necessarily, there's not just one point of view. We have various challenges. We have people who represent districts that are very highly partisan and feel very strongly that, and are more worried about a primary challenge and making sure they're very hardcore on their position. So districts like mine are more rare these days than common. And I've said many times, I think our politics might be better if we had more districts like mine across the country, but we don't right now. And so as a result, that's part of the challenge. But there's also the issue of leadership. Leadership can make a decision to put legislation on the floor. We would have avoided a government shutdown or even DHS, Department of Homeland Security funding that got held up. We ended up voting on things we could have done right away and never caused a last-minute problem because we weren't willing to put the right legislation on the table. So I do think that leadership can break that gridlock if they want to put legislation on the floor, let the House have a vote. And I think there are many examples where it would make a difference. Immigration's one. I talked about the Export-Import Bank reauthorization, another one but there are many examples. And if we want to see solutions, bipartisan solutions move forward, we got to allow them also to have a vote. And occasionally the Farm Bill actually was a good example where that was allowed to happen. We had leadership both with then Chairman Lucas and Ranking Member Peterson came together in a bipartisan way. Some of our ag issues are more regional than they are partisan, and so that allows an opportunity for folks to come together. And yet, as you all know, it was not without struggle as well on getting the Farm Bill together. In our first try, we didn't get the votes we needed on the floor of the House. So, but we eventually got there, and we just need to have more examples of that where folks are willing to work together to. Good. Well, I know you had a bunch of folks earlier, so I'm sure they give you all the answers too. But I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and that you gave me an opportunity to spend some time with you here today. And I know many folks know how to find us. So definitely, as you have feedback and input as we continue to move forward, we really appreciate that. And have a great time while you're here in Washington, D.C. Thank you.